You're welcome to the spot, you know the truth is here. BronxTails on a beat, we see it clear. All the cases, all the shadows, we break it down. Pull up a seat, join the fam in this town. Every story matters, every voice you bring. We don't just talk the talk, we let the facts sing. Logan and Bronx, yeah, they lead the way. Shining light in the dark every single day. Yeah. Curiosity welcome, questions never wrong. Here you belong, it's a family strong. From cold cases to the ones unsolved. Together we uncover, together we evolve. No gossip, no rumors, we keep it real. Every detail matters, every clue you feel. We vibe, we learn, we investigate. BronxTails, true crime, let's elevate. Stay with us every night and day. We uncover the truth in our own way. Come here, let your mind explore. BronxTails, true crime, always more in store. Yeah, welcome home. Yeah, you're never alone.
Hello. Happy Monday. How is everybody's day going? I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend and did something nice for yourself today. I have to be honest though, I feel like I just said happy Friday to you guys like 10 minutes ago, and it's been a whole weekend already. So here we are once again. It is good to see everybody. Pumpkin, we haven't seen you in a few days. How are you, Michelle? Hi, Pokey. Hi, Sally. Hi, Victoria. Hey, Shoe Booty. We haven't seen you in a few days either. Hi, Santis. Labs. Bianca, my love. All right, let's get her started today. I have an announcement, but I'm going to do it in the middle of the show just to make sure everybody catches it. It is for, why does my camera look weird today? I feel like it's like not the same. That's weird. Anyways, hi, Living Dead Girl. Good to see you. So I'm going to announce it in the middle so everybody hopefully can hear it. What I'm going to start with today is actually something really quick, but really interesting in the Guthrie case. So let me, everything is alleged in our opinion only. Let me share my screen really quick. Doopy-doo, I haven't seen anybody share this yet, and it was shared to me from one of our viewers. If you look at where it is circled, this is the guy in the mask on the porch. There is, maybe it'll let me. Right here. Oh, actually, let me get the markup thing, the markup tool. Right here, there's a lump. There is a lump between his nose and like brow bone. And I don't know if you can see it very well, but I surely can. And I find this insanely interesting. If you guys are into the Guthrie case still, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are still tuning into the Guthrie case and kind of seeing how that's going to turn out. This is the man on the porch, and this is zoomed in very close up, but I see a lump in between his nose and brow bone. On Top X, coming in strong, starting off the show with the $2.99 super sticker. Thank you so much, babe. We love you so much. Always so supportive. So I find this interesting. I haven't seen anybody else mention this, and I feel like it's something that's noticeable enough to where if they got the correct suspect, if that's something like a cyst or along those lines, it would be not only noticeable, but it would be something that would probably need to be surgically removed, so would still be there to this day if it hadn't been removed yet. Very interesting to me. Very interesting. Hello, Beauty for Ashes. Good to see you. And Lizzie and Tattoo Gal. Good to see everybody. I just find this really interesting. It's probably one of the more interesting facts that have stood out to me in the Guthrie case. we did the whole what he's wearing and what he's carrying or her, I suppose. The lips and the stash and the eyelashes and the eyes, but this lump is pretty distinguishable in my opinion. So yeah, there's a lump there. Very interesting. All right, all right. It looks like a lump to me. It looks like it has some depth to it. If it might not show the same because it's, a screenshot of a screenshot. So if you get a chance, go to the video of the guy coming up on the porch to Guthrie's house and just grab a snippet of it and then zoom in, see if you can see better. But to me, it looks like it has some depth and like it's a bump with maybe like a cyst type thing in it. That's what it looks like to me. Let me see if I had any other just pictures before I get started. I want to grab a email real quick. Make sure it's in here. There we go. Okay. Cool. All righty. So let me get into everything else. Just so everybody knows, I am digging into Othram, specifically their investors. I found a little bit of overlap with policing and things like that with some of the people, or specifically one entity that is an investor with them that might be a little bit interesting. But I have most of the main investors logged so I can start digging and see if we can find anything interesting there. But for today, we're going to start here. And I'm not sure how many of you saw this post, but I found this quite interesting, as if crap isn't crazy enough in this case. Here we have Lucy posted, and she was basically showing typically unique, but I found this post very interesting because we have the case number that we normally look up when we go to Moscow Police Department to see if, there's any new documents or if they've released anything. This is the case number you'd look up. So the number that was originally on this document is M07622. And it's a warrant for Yik Yak. We know Dylan was on Yik Yak in between that 8-hour time frame. And all they did was cross it off and put the case number that we normally search for in the MPD website. It's strange that there seems to be a lot of just crossing off and writing over, which is pretty unprofessional. Not sure why you couldn't. This is a warrant. Why would you not put the correct case number on there and just redo it? But the case number that was originally typed for this warrant is a case that was related to a bomb threat or an attack at the University of Idaho. Pretty interesting, if you ask me. Why would they be using it? I can't make it make sense. Why would they be using that case number? Why would they be using that warrant, that case number for that warrant, to the fact that they would have to then cross it out and write the correct one? This doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense to me. But I like this. It's interesting to me. It just shows, like, when it comes to chain of custody and their documentation and things like that, this just shows once again how terrible they were. So if you want to sit there and say, yeah, we have to trust the documents, yeah, in a sense we do, because they are the official documents, but we see how many mistakes they make, how many were caught that they've, crossed off and just wrote over the top of it, which is so unprofessional. But how many have they not caught that are incorrect with all of the evidence, chain of custody, changing numbers on evidence, so everybody and their brother's confused? It's just another thing that shows how stinking ridiculous this is. I just thought it was a good post to show. I like things like that. So I suppose we'll get right into this one. This is the expert that Birdie had on, and I just specifically want to talk about one thing that he said in here. So I'm going to play it. I'm sure we've all seen this already, but I am going to play this little part so we can talk about it. Make it bigger. Let's make it bigger. Abso-freaking-lutely. I would love to see under the knife sheath so we can see the void under the knife sheath. I think it's very important when he said it was placed there before the crime. Now, we've talked before about possibly this knife sheath and maybe a weapon inside of it belonging to one of the victims rather than one of the perpetrators. And this was shared to me with one of our subscribers, and their view of this is what they said. What got my attention the most is when Bertie asked about the sheath. He said it was put there before the attack because of how the specks of blood were laid on the sheath. Now, a part of me thinks it was Maddie's for protection and it was already there. However, if the sheath wasn't Maddie's and the perpetrator did bring it, I then believe the person is left-handed. The reason I say that, think about it. The person would be facing the bed. Knife is in the sheath in the right hand. The person then removes the knife with their left hand and then places the knife sheath on the bed with their right hand and then stabs with their left. It also takes me back to maybe a week or two ago when I was talking about the placement of this knife sheath and the fact that Asget Industries, now that's the lady who did the 3D recreation video, which was full of lies, but she did it for Dateline. And if you remember that video, she specifically says that one of the perpetrators put their knee on the bed to be able to be above and to the side of the victims to attack them. Now, if that's true, I also thought that the sheath would then be on the perpetrator's right side if it did belong to the perpetrator rather than Maddie or Kaylee. Which then I also thought if they had it on their belt loop and it was pulled off, it was on the right side of their belt loop, which would then also indicate that they would be left-handed if they know how to properly wear a knife sheath, I suppose, right? We're all just kind of speculating and assuming that they knew how to wear it properly because you would need to reach over and draw the knife out with your dominant hand, and it would be on the opposite side of your body so you can cross over and pull it out, which would be on their right side, and they would reach over and pull it out with their left hand using their left hand. Again, we go back to Lana's guest, the bloodstain expert, who thought it's possible that one of the perpetrators was left-handed. And I think it's a really good point that it's hard to imagine this knife sheath was pulled off of a belt loop after it was secured on there. That's what they're made for. We've said this a million times. So to think maybe they were actually holding the knife sheath in their hand, they would need to be right-handed to pull it out. I'm sorry, left-handed to pull it out with their dominant hand and use it, setting the knife sheath then down with their less dominant hand, which would be their right hand. It makes sense to me if you can picture it. I do find it interesting that he says that sheath was there before the attack started, which tells us again, if the sheath was there before the attack started, then how would it get pulled out or pulled off the belt loop prior to the attack starting, right? It would have to be during the attack, after the attack, towards the end of somewhere during the attack rather than immediately before the actual attack. It's strange to me. I still am 50-50 whether it came from a perpetrator or whether it came from a victim trying to defend themselves, and then the perpetrator just took their weapon from them and took it with them and used it. Or just took it with them, maybe not even used it. Who knows? So that to me is very, very interesting. And I suppose since we have quite a few people here, a decent amount enough to explain because this goes right along with it. Our guest, I'm going to announce right now that our guest on Wednesday will be a highly decorated expert in crime scene reconstruction and bloodstain pattern analysis. This gentleman will not be coming on the channel to explain whether he feels Bryan Kohberger is guilty or innocent. That is not what this is about. He is specifically excited to come on this channel on Wednesday to give his expert knowledge on and educate everybody on crime scene reconstruction and bloodstain pattern analysis. And the reason I want to announce it instead of having him just come on as a surprise is because I want you guys to, I'm going to make a community post tonight after the live and explain, who he is and kind of what some of his background is. And under the community post, if you have specific questions, I want you to type them in there and let me know what your specific questions are. I'm going to send them over to him by noon Central Time tomorrow. So if you, oh, you couldn't hear Birdie? Oh, no. That stinks. Let me see if I can try it again. I apologize. Oh, no. Let me know if you can hear this.
Body or the exposed blood source. And it's going to break that blood source up into little tiny blood drops.
Oh, you heard it? Well, hopefully you heard it. The expert or the guy on here. Oh, now you can. Okay, I'm going to replay it. It's really short. Well, let me finish my sentence. Sorry. So we have an expert on Wednesday. Again, he is very highly decorated, highly decorated. He's actually a professor and teaches crime scene reconstruction at University of North Carolina. Very, very decorated, very kind of him. I'm very blessed that he's coming on the show, but I'm going to make a community post later. If you have questions, please post them under my post and I will ask him all those questions so he is prepared for them when he comes on the show. Again, it's not whether Bryan is guilty or innocent. That's not what it is. It's just education. We're very blessed to have him. If you have a specific crime scene picture that you want me to ask him about, you can either explain the picture and I will find it and send it over to him. Or if you know the exact number, then just go ahead and type the number in your comment under my post, and I will find the picture and send it to him if you have specific questions. But all questions are great. Please go ahead and feel free to ask whatever you would like. Just type it in under my post tonight, and I will get them over to him by noon tomorrow. Let's go back to Birdie. It is really short. So let me see if I can make sure and have you guys hear it, because it's one specific sentence he says about the sheath.
Another question that is highly requested is the lack of blood, given how much cast off and spatters on the wall. I have a zoomed in photo of the sheath here. I mean, this is all that was on the knife sheath. I mean, does that surprise you that it's just these little specks? Can you give us your thoughts on this?
Actually, I have not seen this photograph before, so this is really interesting. So those are impact spatter stains. Those are small stains. So think about when an impact event occurs. We all know what it looks like water coming out of a fountain, right? Water goes up, it is a parabolic path, and then it comes back down. Same thing with blood. So when there's a force event or an impact, the blood's going to go out from that source. It's going to go up in the air as little blood drops, and then it's going to essentially rain down on any surfaces that are nearby.
Doesn't it just seem like a knife sheath would have a ton more blood on it? How does the sheath land there and there's blood all around it and there's not more than that on a sheath, right? Also, the sheath, this isn't torn. A sheath goes through a belt loop. How does this get there? Is it set down? Did it fall? What are your thoughts on that?
It was put there before this assault occurred, because otherwise you wouldn't have all those spatter stains on top of it.
Whoa, hang on. Say that again. That's interesting.
It had to have been put there in that position or dropped in that position or set down in that position before this assault occurred, because otherwise you wouldn't have that that blood raining down onto it. So one thing I would do is I would like to see under that knife sheath if there's a void to show that it was in that position the whole time during this assault.
You're saying this is all.
So that's what was so interesting to me is the man, Jeffrey Gentry, who does crime scene analyst stuff, just like the guest we're going to have, is saying that he thinks that the knife sheath was put there prior to the attack because of where it's at and the blood spatter that's on it. Very, very interesting. And then I explained why I thought that was interesting. And then I explained how one of our viewers or subscribers sent in the information on why and how they thought the sheath got there, meaning that the perpetrator, if it came from them, could have very well been left-handed because of where the sheath was. And if they were holding it with their right hand, pulling it out with their left, and just using their dominant hand then, which would be the left hand. So, so the expert that we're going to have on is an actual expert. He didn't recreate the Idaho 4 scene. He's very, very interested in this crime scene though. So what he does is he goes in and he explains, look, this is how this happens. This is how this happens. This is how you get the evidence from this because this happened and it looks like this. That's he's an expert in crime scene analysis. So he could recreate the crime scene and say exactly what happened, when, where, how, why, all of the answers. He didn't recreate this, but he's studied this basically and can give you all the information you need to know on it. And then he's an expert in bloodstain pattern analysis as well. So that's very interesting to me. He's so decorated. He serves as a chair on the board of crime scene reconstruction analysis for the whole country. He's very decorated, so very professional. Yeah, make sure, and when I put the post on the community page for this channel, make sure and put all your questions under there so I have them all in one spot and can just transfer them to an email, grab the pictures, put it with it, and send it over to him tomorrow, which I'll be doing again by noon tomorrow. So I'm very, very excited about this. He's very kind and he's very excited to come on, and we're very blessed that he agreed to come on and we'll do this. So yeah, very much looking forward to it. Especially his past, his history, his knowledge, his training. So Let's see. Oh, I wanted to share this photo. And this photo is also from one of you guys, a subscriber, who sent me in a picture of their husband's USMC K-bar knife sheath that they were given when they were in the military back in the 80s. And I find it very interesting. I have the comparison side by side from the one found at Idaho, and the one on the left here is the one that was provided to this military member, which we thank you for his service back in the 80s. Pretty cool. You can notice the differences on this where the one, I know it's blurry. The Idaho one has the rivets, which are the little nail looking things that are next to the stitching. They look like nails. And in the 80s, it looks like maybe they used staples instead. I just find it interesting. You can tell, the leather's much darker. You can tell that the stamps for the USMC and where it says K-bar are much deeper. And that's one thing that to this day you can still notice as a difference. The sheaths that are provided by the actual military issued sheaths, the stamping is deeper. There's a difference in the spacing of the letters, both in the USMC and I think where it says K-bar as well. But for sure in the USMC, the spacing is different with the letters than as if you bought one off of Amazon. And those are some very minute details, but they're detailed enough to where you can notice the difference of them. I just thought it was cool that one of you guys sent in an actual military issued knife sheath from the 80s from K-bar. Crazy, super crazy. All right, we have, let me scroll back up here. Thank you, Lizzie, for letting me know that you guys couldn't hear. I'm not sure why this audio does that sometimes. I didn't change anything. And thank you, Bianca, so much for the FOIA. Let's hit that target, babies. Thank you, my love. And then we have a super chat. Excited to hear his opinions. Thank you, babe, for all the love you put into finding the truth. Thank you so much, Reality with Krista Marie. And I see you have a brand new episode I think you posted with the Real Housewives. I'm going to tune into that. I was into the Housewives long ago, so kind of mindless entertainment, right? Might as well support you while you support me, right? All right, let's get this guy off of here. Doopy-doo. Exit out of here. Oh my God, you guys are going to love today's Bronx's Buddy of the Day. It's not yet though, but you guys are going to love it. Okay, let me share this one. Oh, Bronxy, relax, Bubba. It's okay. Translucent made a post. You guys might have seen it today. And it says, based on police records, I have found evidence of Brent Mortenson's history of domestic violence and steroid-induced rage. I'm investigating Dylan's former stepmother, whom I believe is actually Patricia Clemens, despite her current use of the name Monroe. My research shows she was married to a Rusty Crawford at age 19 and used the alias Patricia Wilson before marrying Brent. After leaving medical school, she became an attorney in Ada County. I've also discovered a paralegal named Brittany Fernandez. I'm trying to determine if Patricia and Brittany were acquainted and if Dylan was instructed to contact her before reaching out to Bethany. Furthermore, I've learned Patricia was so fearful of Brent's extensive gun collection that she hid them at her mother's home. Now retired, she runs this YouTube channel. Pretty interesting to me because, listen, if that is true, that the Brittany Fernandez that is a paralegal that knows Dylan's ex-stepmother That means she would have saved the number at 351, and 351 would have been well before the state wants us to believe that the crime even happened. So if that connection is true, that will be a huge deal. It hasn't been determined just yet, but I'm very, very interested on where this investigation might go by Translucent, because that would be a huge deal if that is the Brittany Fernandez that she saved. And if you remember, I contacted the Brittany Fernandez that I thought it could be, that followed the Gonsalves family page, lived in the area, and she claims she doesn't know who Dylan is. So I don't think we've found the true Brittany Fernandez yet, which is the contact that was saved at 351, unless the one I reached out to is just avoiding any attention by saying, no, I didn't know her. But if this is the Brittany Fernandez, that's the paralegal, and that's the time that her number was saved, that will be a very big deal. I'm very curious to see where this goes. So coincidental, right? There's just so many coincidences in this case that are mind-boggling. That is a big deal. Very big deal. And that's absolutely why I wanted to share it. I'm sure everybody here follows all the same pages I do, but sometimes they get, posts especially get lost in the mix and we don't see them, especially now with YouTube changing whatever the heck they changed, and I don't like it. But I'm going to play this by Truth and Neurons. And I find it, oh, thank you, Bianca. Bianca gifted 5 memberships. We have 5 new turtles, and it does not show me through StreamYard who got them. So if you got a membership, congratulations. That is so, so sweet of you to gift 5 memberships. Thank you so much. Moto says, so I'm guessing everyone saw that short on YouTube with that text from Dylan's dad. Yeah. The one where Dylan's dad texts Dylan and says, hey DMM, just wanted to see when a good time to chat with you is. Is 1 better or is 2 better? And in the midst of, calling 911 and doing all this crazy stuff that she, had already called 911, she responds with 2 is better, almost like nothing is going on in her life at that moment. Oh, no, that's not the one. Which one are you talking about? No, that's not the one. No, that's not the one. Which one, hun? Which one you talking about? Moto's talking about a short. So I'm guessing everyone saw that short on YouTube with that text from Dylan's dad. Which one, hun? Hold up a sec. Okay. We will hold on a second. So yeah, don't forget that after this live, I'll make a community post on this channel. And under that, go ahead and post your questions for our expert, crime scene analyst, bloodstain pattern analysis. And if you have a picture to reference, put the picture number on there. Or if you don't have access to the pictures, you can just explain the picture to me and I can find it. So he's prepared on exactly what we're looking for. Yeah, that's so sweet, Bianca. Thank you for gifting. That's so, so sweet. Oh, and just so you guys know too, I will not be on Crimes After Dark tonight. If you enjoy the show, I would very much say go ahead and tune into either Dago's chat or Devil's Advocates chat, but I will not be able to be there tonight. Okay, Moto says I can't find it, but it's a text that's threatening anyone that is messing with Dylan. No, I have not seen that. I know what I'm going to look for when this live is over. Very interesting. Nope, I did not. And when I find it, I will definitely show it. Reality says, is it okay to ask him if he thinks one person did it? I don't want to get into the whole BK or not. I just want to know if he thinks BK had help. I do know that he thinks it's possible it was done with one person, 1,000% one person. I don't think he thinks that it's 1,000, like without a doubt. I mean, there's always possibilities, but I do think he thinks it's possible one person had or could have the ability to do it. But we haven't gotten really deep into stuff. So you guys know where I sit with that. I definitely think it's more than one, more than two, probably. But like I've said before, I have wanted to have people on this channel as guests that have a difference in opinion. I want to have guilters as guests on this channel to see where their mindset is at. I'm not saying he disagrees with us at all. I think if he hated us and completely disagreed with us and thought we were crazy, he wouldn't come on the channel, right? He knows what we discuss on this channel. So he is just here to educate on what everything means, what it shows, what could have took place, what the blood stains mean. But I think anything can happen. I mean, it's a possibility that one person did this. It could have been a frat guy. It could have been one person who's a professional who does hits through the cartel or through the, Aryans, or we don't really know. And so I think as much as we want guilters to have an open mind, I think it's great for us to have an open mind as well. I'm not expecting him to change any of our minds or change my way of thinking at all. He's just here to basically educate us, tell us what the stains mean, how they get there. If they look too dry, if they look too wet, how they got there. How was this stain made? Why does it look this way? How are they diluted? Things like that. So specific. Oh, is there more to that? I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play this video by Truth and Neurons. I find it important when it comes to Dylan and Ethan. Please let me know. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear it. Okay. Actually, I'm going to re-put it up there just to make sure. Just to make sure. Okay.
Good evening. Welcome to Truth and Neurons. I am your host, and tonight we dissect the latest findings in cortical reorganization.
We begin tonight with a developing crisis that threatens the very fabric of our neurological pathways. The truth, as always, is complex.
Hi everyone, it's Ruby G. Welcome to Truth and Neurons. You know, when we look at forensic evidence, it usually tells us how something ended. But every now and then it reveals something more. It tells the story of a fight. Today we're diving deep into the evidence from just one room. Evidence that paints an incredible picture of one woman's final, powerful act of defiance. To really get what the evidence is telling us here, we have to start with one central, absolute, crucial fact. Because before we can even begin to understand the forensics, we have to understand the person. And that person, Xana Kronodle, was a trained gymnast. All right, so let's dig into that.
Xana was just an amazing person who loved everybody. She was a super talented gymnast.
Xana's murder shattered this team.
We're devastated by the events that took place back in November.
As they travel from Idaho to Tennessee and every state in between, this coach says they'll spread Xana's memory everywhere they go.
Outsmart the market with Base 44 super agents. Set up in seconds and ready.
This is Truth and Neurons, and if you don't subscribe, I would definitely suggest checking out some of their videos. They like to put out pre-recorded videos that are pretty, short. If you have 10 minutes and that's it, they're great videos to watch. very informative. And I do think that Xana's history with gymnastics is a big, big deal when it comes to this case, when it comes to fighting, and specifically, like we just talked about, when it comes to maybe some people thinking there was only one perpetrator. How would these two people in one room, Ethan, Ethan being as large as he is and Xana being as strong as she is. Listen, I was a trained gymnast. I competed for over 20 years of my life. I know the strength it takes to be a gymnast. She was strong and she gave a hell of a fight. And I think part of that has to do with her history of being a gymnast. You create strong muscles in places you didn't even know you had. And I'll tell you, a lot of times, especially like at the beach or something, if I look at another female, I can tell by her muscle structure in her legs, specifically where her hip meets her leg, if she was a gymnast in her life. There's something to it. I can just notice it because I have it. So Xana being a gymnast is a huge deal. Xana and Ethan together in the same room, not being able to fight off one perpetrator between the two of them, that's part of what tells me absolutely, in my opinion, no way there was only one perpetrator. I'm going to keep playing.
What does being trained as a gymnast actually mean when it comes to what a person is capable of? We're not just talking about being flexible. No, this is about a very specific and honestly a very powerful kind of strength. See, gymnastics training, it almost hardwires a body with a unique set of skills. You're talking about an incredible strength to weight ratio for one, and a grip strength that is way, way above average. But here's the key. It creates this instinctive spatial awareness and this really deep muscle memory. These are reflexes that just kick in automatically, especially when you're under the most extreme kind of physical stress. And this wasn't just some muscle memory for, a competition. So here we have a video of Xana doing front and back flips and dancing around.
Yep.
Go. Ow. That's a carpet. Oh my God. Where is she?
She only fell because I would assume the grass was slippery and intoxicated, but that would have been very easy for her to land. And I'm sure she hadn't practiced in quite a while. So there is a lot of muscle memory to it, but you have strength in areas of your body that you would never even know you had the strength in. And because it's core strength, right? When you're a gymnast.
Even when she's intoxicated, you can see the coordination and what she's capable of. So think about that for a second, because this actually proves that her body was trained to react with athletic precision on autopilot, no matter what her mental state was. And that's a critical point when you start to piece together what happened that night. Okay, so with that profile in mind, let's turn to the evidence. We're going to shift from the person to the cold, hard facts left behind at the scene. And believe me, the story they tell, well, it's intense. 67. Just let that number sink in. That's how many separate documented wounds the autopsy found on Xana.
67 wounds on Xana. If that does not tell you how hard she fought compared to everybody else, yeah, 20 wounds is a freaking lot, but 67? Could you imagine one perpetrator going in 67 times? That's a lot. Could you imagine the time it took to create 67 stab wounds on another human being? I can tell you that one alone took longer than the 3 minutes they're trying to say it happened in.
67. And that was the most of any of the 4 victims. And out of those 67 wounds, there's one number that tells the story of her fight more clearly than anything else. 25. 25 of those wounds were classified as defense wounds.
25 defensive wounds. Xana has more wounds that were specifically just defensive than what almost everybody else had total. 67 total wounds and 25 defensive. That is crazy. That's a lot. That is a big fight.
Just on her hands and arms. Again, this is the most of anyone there. So what exactly is a defense wound? Well, in forensics, it's an injury you get when you're actively blocking or even grabbing for a weapon. It's the clearest proof you can get that the victims were conscious, that they were aware of what was happening, and that they were physically fighting back. The autopsy report paints an even more vivid and frankly brutal picture. The defense wounds on the right hand were so severe that the blade actually cut into the bone. That suggests that she was grabbing for the knife with unbelievable force.
Now, I stated that, I think it was last week when I went over the wounds that they were going to specifically use at trial and show at trial. And I stated that she had a very severe right palm wound. They all had a right palm wound, but I said that she was probably, or most of them, everybody except for Kaylee actually, probably tried to grab onto the knife. And I think I saw a comment somewhere that somebody was like, that's a stupid thing to say. Who would grab for the knife? That's what you do. Like, every person that you're not thinking like, oh crap, this is going to like completely cut the crap out of my hand. You're just thinking, I'm going to stop this in any way I can. And yes, people grab for the knife. Yes, absolutely. And that shows by all, 3 of the victims having wounds that would indicate that they grabbed for the knife. And that is shown or proven basically when you have a deep wound on this side of your hand, but also your fingers are cut because you're wrapping your hand around it, right? But yes, all of them had right palm wounds, and I'm not sure the significance of that. Maybe if somebody wants to look it up. But yeah, that she had a wound so severe to her right hand that it cut the bone. Sausage said something interesting. There should have been blood on that rug that she was found on. And when it's flipped over in the photographs, there's no blood on the underneath of the rug that she died on. And that I just found very interesting. And now it makes me want to go back and look. That's crazy. Yes. And yes, absolutely. Reality. Holding up their hands like, no, stop, like trying to protect themselves will also get them wounds all over. That's what's causing, that's why they're called defensive wounds. You're trying to defend yourself and you're being hurt by just trying to defend yourself. Defensive wounds.
But there's something absolutely critical. Blood was found on the soles of her feet. And on top of that, the presence of blood in her airways shows that she was alive and breathing all throughout this struggle. And here's a quote from an analysis in the source material that just hits the nail on the head. That one detail, the blood on the soles of the feet, it's forensic proof. It means that she wasn't just attacked and killed in her bed. No, she was up. She was on her feet and she was mobile during the entire assault. And the room itself, it backs this up completely. The forensic analysis of the scene photos points to claw marks on a wall and on the floor these large arc-shaped blood smears. Now these patterns are totally consistent with the body moving, repositioning over time. It points to a long, mobile fight.
This picture is just crazy. Trigger warning. Awful, awful picture. It specifically, okay, so I know a lot of people say in this picture it looks like she slipped in her blood because blood is actually extremely slippery. Yeah, she probably did, but I also think that she was drugged through it. I think that she was pulled. I think she was down in the corner between the bed and the nightstand, and I think a perpetrator pulled her out of there and pulled her back closer to the center of the room so they could attack her better, I guess. that's a horrible word to say, easier for them. Oh, oh my God, she was probably trying to run. And it's interesting you say that because, yeah, she probably was. And what tells me that is she has stab wounds to her back. Kaylee has stab wounds to her back. Ethan has stab wounds to his back. Maddie even has, I'm pretty sure, a stab wound to her like back shoulder area. If I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that one. I'm going to have to go back and look because I'm drawing a blank right now. But I think she does. I want to say they all did have stab wounds to their back, which is very interesting to me. The only way you could really get stab wounds to your back is if your back is facing them or they're over you and have open access to your back somehow. Xana definitely at one point had her back to this perpetrator. Absolutely. And it's so sad. So sad. And yeah, I always think that the OJ, Nicole Brown Simpson, Ron Goldman crime scene is good to look at as far as the crime scene and the blood spatter and blood stains and all the blood that's there. It's a very great visual to understand blood stain patterns. But the only thing I don't like about it to compare to this one is we don't even get to see all of the blood stain or blood pattern at the Nicole Brown Simpson death scene because there's grass. And there's, I'm sure, a lot of blood in that grass and on the soil and the dirt and the plants that we can't even see. If that was done inside, it would have been horrifically everywhere. It would have been, in my opinion, it would look actually way worse than this. And if I'm not mistaken, they had less wounds than Idaho 4 did.
That moved across the room. All right, so let's put these two big pieces together. How does all the evidence of this intense fight connect directly back to her profile as a gymnast? To really get the full picture of Xana's fight, we actually have to look at what happened to Ethan Chapin, who was right there in the room with her. His autopsies showed a devastating wound to his subclavian artery, an injury that would cause massive bleeding and rapid incapacitation. We're talking likely within a minute. The implication here is it's stark. Ethan was most certainly taken out of the fight almost immediately. And what does that mean? It means that this room spanning struggle we see in the evidence, well, that was fought by Xana predominantly by herself. And this data here really qualifies the sheer scale of that solo fight. I mean, look at this. When you put the numbers side by side of all 4 victims.
This is great. This is a great visual. Xana, 67 total wounds. Defensive wounds, 25. Kaylee had 38 total wounds, 3 defensive wounds. 3. Maddie had 28 total wounds with 10 defensive wounds. And Ethan had the least of 17 wounds and 6 defensive wounds. So the Gonsalves family wanting you to think, or the media or whoever, wanting everybody to think that Kaylee put up this horrific, horrendous, huge fight. No, she did not. She had 3 defensive wounds, and I want to say they were possible defensive wounds because I believe one of them was to her hand, one of them was to her upper arm, and another one was to her lower arm, I believe. So they could possibly not even be defensive wounds. Possibly. They could be, but they could not be as well. Kaylee, in my opinion, was knocked out, but this is a great visual just to see the numbers from each victim side by side. And I believe 38 total wounds, and then they have a plus mark by it. some of those are her facial wounds from a blunt force object. They're not even, some of them are not even stab wounds.
Zana's just jumps off the page. 67 total wounds, the most. 25 defense wounds, more than double of anyone else's. The numbers don't lie. They tell a very clear story. Hers was by far the most prolonged and most violent resistance. What you're looking at here is an evidence submission receipt from the Idaho State Police. See how it documents the collection of fingernail clippings. That's standard procedure. And why do they do that? Because when a struggle is this obvious, investigators are looking for one thing: the attacker's DNA scratched from their skin and trapped right there under victims' nails. So when you pull it all together, you've got the claw marks, the blood smears, the 25 defensive wounds, the cuts that go all the way to the bone. It all points to one powerful conclusion. You're not just looking at a story of struggle. You're looking at the forensic signature of a gymnast's struggle, one that was fueled by an incredible intense strength and a powerful will to survive. But you know that this powerful story doesn't just end with honouring her fight. It actually raises some really significant questions that kind of ripple out and touch the entire case narrative. Okay, so think about that for a minute.
I found myself at a time in my career where I knew I needed to finish my education. I chose Purdue.
What would it actually take to overcome this specific kind of resistance?
And I feel like this is very, very important. It's hard for a lot of us to believe that one perpetrator did this. I don't care how athletic you are. I don't care what you're trained in. It matters if you're trained like in jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or mixed martial arts, a boxer, something like that. But Brian Koberger was not. And yes, mainstream media has said he went to the boxing gym, but wasn't it his coach said that he never threw one punch, or he only sparred one time or something like that? Like, he was not a trained. Xana is stronger than Brian Koberger, you guys. I do not feel that Brian Koberger has the strength to take on any of them. Maybe Maddie at best, maybe. But I don't think there's any way that one person did this, let alone Brian Koberger as that one person. He runs, but that doesn't mean you can fight. There was a Sausage had a good comment that I wanted to make sure. Okay. Sausage says, oh, nope, that's not even the right one. This one. So if you imagine that there would be more blood at the scene of Nicole Simpson, it even more highlights the fact that there's not enough blood in this bedroom where Xana bled out. I agree. There was a lot less wounds with Nicole and Ron Goldman and a lot more blood. And there's even more blood in the grass that we can't even see. So yeah, the demands on the attacker should be significantly stronger than all of these victims. Sustained stamina. Now, I think Brian does have stamina because he runs, but that just because you can run for a while doesn't mean that you can fight or kill. Ability to maintain control during violent, sustained resistance. And I want to remind everybody, how many times did Dago calls her Skeletor? Her name is Ashley Banfield. How many times has she made fun of Brian Koberger's body, specifically how weak he looks with his love handles? And I want to also remind everybody, Dylan's description of the person being athletically built like a basketball player. Basketball players are tall. Most of them are very tall and muscular. Brian Koberger is not tall or muscular.
Well, an attacker would need some serious physical strength, and not just a quick burst, but sustained stamina to keep a fight going over time. and they would have to be able to maintain control over someone who's actively and effectively fighting back, all in this chaotic, confined, bloody space. Okay, this evidence has led analysts like Dr. Turvey, who quoted in our sources, to seriously question this single attacker theory. And the reasoning is all based on what happened to Ethan Chapin. I mean, although he was taken out quickly, is it reasonable to think that he wouldn't have been unable to do anything while Zana was enduring such a violent and likely loud attack next to him? The whole line of thinking starts to suggest the possibility of a second attacker.
I want you to picture this real quick. Ethan's on the bed. He has no clothes on. He's being, the attacker goes to attack him. Xana's standing right there. How easy would it have been for her to grab a dang shoelace or anything that's fairly long around her and wrap it over the perpetrator's neck? And I feel like she would have kind of thought like that. She was spunky to wrap it around the perpetrator's neck and pull it really tight and just never let go. That would have made the perpetrator go unconscious. But also, we have to think of, the evidence looks like it shows that when the door was opened by Xana, she was attacked immediately. Well, there's no way that Ethan would have just laid in bed and let her get attacked like that. In my opinion, there had to have been two at least in that room. And I see some voids on the floor, in my opinion, that look like somebody was standing next to the bed while Xana was being attacked.
With both victims being engaged at the same time. And then there's the sound question. The physical evidence points to a really loud, chaotic and pretty long fight, a struggle that leaves claw marks on walls and smears blood across the floor. It's not going to be a silent event. And this creates a potential conflict with what witnesses, in particular Dylan, who was on the same floor as Xana, only 15 to 20 feet away. She could just pop her head out of the doorway, which she apparently did 3 or 4 times, and see what was going on. She was right there. And Bethany was on the first floor, not that far away. Yet the witnesses both reported hearing what was only limited sounds before everything went quiet, which brings us to this final thought. The evidence tells an undeniable story of one woman's incredible strength and her fight for her life. But it also represents a version of what happened in that room, a prolonged, loud, brutal struggle that really forces us to ask, what does the forensic story of this one incredible fight demand that we re-examine about the official narrative of the attack as a whole?
Yeah, I think that's just a really good video because, we get to see the numbers side by side and the explanation and here's how I like to think of it. Ethan had 17 wounds. If we put that into perspective of timing, I would like to think that at the very fastest, a perpetrator would be able to stab 17 wounds, the very fastest, in 17 seconds. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Think of that. But Ethan had wounds that showed that he did put up a little bit of a fight, at least rolled around some, maybe covered his head. We don't know, but I couldn't imagine he just laid there and did nothing, which is going to add time to that 17 seconds. But he had some incise wounds as well that I think were specifically placed and done in a specific place on his legs. Think of the time, picture a perpetrator doing that, the time it would take while Ethan's further away on the bed. A perpetrator would have to be next to the bed, leaning over. Xana could have had more than enough time to run to the kitchen and get a knife herself and come back in that room. Why did she not do that? because there was another perpetrator in there attacking her at the same time. She couldn't. As soon as she opened that door, she was attacked. But I don't believe for a hot second that Ethan just laid there and did nothing. There's not even any proof that he even attempted to get out of bed. I don't think he could get out of bed. There was another perpetrator blocking his way of getting out of that bed and attacking him at the same exact time. That's what I think. Think of the amount of wounds and the time it would take to make those wounds, where the perpetrator would have to be standing if it was just one, where Xana would be. She had more than enough time to run to the kitchen and grab a knife, to go anywhere and grab anything, to run out the dang door. But she didn't, because she was blocked by another perpetrator. There were two in there. I will never be convinced that there was only one. I just can't. Logically, it just doesn't work for my brain. Okay. So I just want to remind everybody, I'm going to post on the community post here within the next 30 minutes. Put your questions under there for our expert. But then I want to share Bronx's buddy of the day. Wrong picture. Hold on. This is Bronx's buddy of the day. I'm not even kidding. Tomboy Charm, one of our subscribers, has an actual turtle. The turtle in the middle is her actual pet, and his name is Ninja. That is a real life pet. I'm not kidding. So Bronx's buddy of the day today is Tomboy Charm's baby Ninja, and it's a turtle. Turtle. I know, when she sent it to me, I was like, no way you have an actual turtle for a pet. That is incredible. This is Bronx's buddy of the day, and this is Ninja. Meet Ninja. Oh my God, how adorable is this? I thought it was so funny, since we call all of our members the turtles, because everybody has a name that turns green when you become a member. So I made it fun. I put some pictures around it. But the turtle in the middle is a real life turtle, and that is Tomboy's pet turtle named Ninja. So cute. So cute. All right, guys, that's what I have for today. Again, hey, Six String. Again, I won't be on Crimes After Dark tonight, but I encourage you to join either Dago's or DA's chat. I think that is all I have. I will be there tomorrow night. Make sure and post your questions in the community under my post for our special guest on Wednesday. You don't want to miss it. Do something nice for yourself today. Be kind, but more importantly, be kind to your animals. Thank you, Bianca, for the 5 gifted. Thank you, Reality, for the 5 super chat, and Bianca for our FOIA target. Lizzie, for letting me know that you guys couldn't hear. My apologies. And On Top X, always starting the show off with a bang. You guys are incredible. I love you all so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Bye, guys.